If you are what you say you are, a superstar, then have no fear. The camera's here and the microphones, and they wanna know.
Trace was an oral history project about youth culture, investigating what it was like to be young in East London in the past and what it is like these days.
The crowd is here and the lights are on, and they wanna show.
There were 20 of us in the project. We all go to Bethnal Green Technology College, and we're all from different years and forms.
Do we get to take a picture? Do we get to take pictures with him? If you want, yeah. Definitely.
4 of us were on the steering group, making decisions and telling the adults how to run the project.
Right, well done. That's like a decision really tested me. The Fantastic Four. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool, yeah. Do the Fantastic Four now,
Fantastic
so
Four. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Okay, so you just had a chat about your plans for next week. Feeling confident?
Yes.
Feeling confident in your group?
What
was that? You forgot what your plans are.
Before we did interviews with older people, we visited museums and archives to get some background to what life in London was like in the past. Because most of the older people were young during the World War II. We focused our research on the Blitz in East London. We also learned how to do research and link information together.
Well, I learned that you can make up stories or connect something by using an object to relate to a story. So whenever you need help writing or writing in the newspapers or whatever, you can use something to lead to a story.
Brilliant for developing their research skills and thinking about kind of exploring things when they don't really know what they're exploring, and sort of being brave to just go and do that.
After all the museum visits, we were ready to start interviewing.
Okay. What?
The
older people were very eager to tell us all about their youth.
I mean, I must have been about, say, 15, 14, got to 20. I'd lost all that bit. But we did do things, and I did things I shouldn't have done because my mother forbid me to do them. You know what it's like when you're little. I bet you all done something that your mother told you not to do. I used to go dancing.
I went to my first hippie festival in 1965 when I was 21. That was the first time I smoked dope. And it gave me a blinding headache. And the following day I didn't enjoy the music at all. However, I did carry on smoking dope because at that age, you know.
We've told the lady we didn't know anything about drugs.
Well, the thing was, if you were dopey, you smoked dope, you know. So I did carry on because I went to college and there was a bit of it there, but never took to it. But yeah, I went to my first pop concert in a so-called like hippie festival, really. And the thing I remember is a lot of the girls just took all their clothes off, which also gave me a headache as well. I was frightened of girls in those days.
Sometimes they showed us photographs of themselves when they were young.
And there it is, me behind the wheel in the factory.
That's me underneath.
What people were wearing, all the men in hats. All the men in hats.
How old are you?
You must have been strong.
They all had so much to tell us.
Of it all, you know, I used to think my mum ain't going to be pleased about this, so we never told her. Maybe she'd say, "Where have you been? Been round to Doris's house or something." But you hadn't. You'd been to the cinema or you'd been dancing. And the dance place was in Forest Gate, and you had to get there by bus. And it was called the Magenta because it was this purpley red colour. There was an absolutely delicious bloke there called Charles. We all aspired to being Charles's girlfriend. He never got it.
When I was 16, a little bit older than you, we thought the Germans were going to invade Britain. So I joined Dad's army. Have anyone heard of Dad's army? It was a home guard.
Oh, yeah.
You've heard of it? Yeah. And I was trained as a terrorist. I was given a bayonet, I've still got it outside. Well, carry it like, I'll bring it in for you, so you see what I mean. If I showed you this, I'd be arrested. But I was given a bayonet, I was given a rifle, I was given a revolver, I was taught to throw bombs and grenades, to fire a missile, and if the Germans had arrived in Britain, supposing they'd won the war, and I'd seen German officers having a meal in a cafe, I'd have thrown a bomb at them. Would I have been a terrorist, or would I have been a freedom fighter?
Freedom.
You work that out. Which would I have been?
It depends, because they're obviously going to think you're a terrorist because they're attacking them. Because they're attacking them, they're going to think you're a terrorist, but obviously for your country, you're fighting for freedom, so it depends.
And you can imagine, we'd just come from London, we went down to Devon, and they had a real broad Devonshire accent, most of the people, because most of them had never been away from Devon, and they all talked like, you know, and we thought they were foreigners trying to like that, and they couldn't understand us. But they started picking out the children they wanted. I mean, this is what it was like. You just stood there, and these adults come around and said, well, I'll take that one, or I'll take that one. And it ended up with just me and my little brother left, and nobody wanted us. And you can imagine what we'd like to have been travelling all day long, and we're just standing in the middle of this school hall. Everybody else got, we got our gas masks around our neck, our labels, because we all wore a luggage label. And they kept arguing what to do with this, and then one woman said, well, I'll take them for tonight as long as you promise to find someone else for them tomorrow.
However, some of the interviews were more difficult than we had expected.
আমি পয়লা রইছিলাম 62 ওয়ার্ডিং স্ট্রিট 62 ওয়ার্ডিং স্ট্রিট এক বছর আর এর রইছিলাম অলমন্ড স্ট্রিট 8 পলিস্টিক প্লেস তার নাম আছে এর বাদে কোয়ার্টার গেছি সারা দিন দিন আর ইনো আই ডিসকাশন
রোড ফার করে দিয়েছে পুলিশে রোড ফার করে দিয়েছে পুলিশে
People don't like us because of our lifestyle.
Hard because it was all men, and we thought that it was going to be some ladies, but then it was wrong. So then we thought some of the people might be able to speak English, but they weren't very fluent. So we had to translate in English and in Bengali for them and everything. And it was kind of hard to disagree with what they were saying because they were their sort of thing, and we wasn't, so we couldn't disagree with anything. So we just went along with it.
What sort of thing were they saying that you might disagree with?
Like the person who was interviewing us, he was talking about all young people in a whole, as he was saying, people like us lot, we're into drugs and everything. And I didn't exactly agree with that. So yeah.
You know, like before they said that no children, they were like more, you know, cleaner, more, you know, into education. But now, yeah, each day, yeah, no children, they don't want to have education. They just want to, you know, not do nothing at home, just go out.
One thing all the older people agreed on was that nobody should have to live through war.
Damaged in the war. War is no good to anybody, anywhere.
And then in 1940, when I was 14, that'd be about your age, London was bombed. And every night we used to go down to the shelter. And I was very frightened, as you expect. And 500 people were killed near where I lived. And I saw East London burning. And my brother was killed in the war. He was 22. And many of my schoolmates were killed. And I was a pilot in the war. And so the reason I mention this is I hate war. And I hate war not because I read any books about it, but because if you've actually seen a little bit of it, you realise that killing people is wrong.